Do you struggle with a chronic health issue such as chronic pain or an autoimmune? And does it feel like there is so much happening and you're trying to figure out, why do I have a flare-up now? Why is this a problem? And you just can't get your hands around the situation. There's just too much going on. And in fact, it makes you feel like you don't want to even really work on your issue. I have been there, and I'm going to share with you this pivotal tool that I use to help figure out what was happening with my health, looking for trends, and to begin finding some answers for myself. Hey friend, do you feel frustrated or alone in your relationship? Or feel hopeless of life ever changing in your family? Would you love to become unstuck, learn to heal, and connect with what your heart enjoys? Well, I am so glad you're here. I'm Christina, married 16 years to a neurodiverse man, mom of 3, and many more roles. Welcome to the Women in Neurodiverse Relationships podcast. Grab your sanity latte, listen in as we take another small step on the journey of intentional living. Turning back the clock to 8 years ago, when I think of that time period, I can easily recall the intensity of frustration and pain that I was dealing with. In fact, I have my old planners that I had used, created my own design actually, and had used at that time. And I remember wondering, there has to be some answers to the problems I was dealing with. Now, the problems I was at that moment focused on for myself was chronic pain. I had severe chronic pain for many, many years and had sought wisdom from different physical therapists. I lost track of how many physical therapists. I looked for ideas and for help, and it seemed to be this never-ending, hopeless case for myself. Thankfully, after many unsuccessful attempts, I finally found a physical therapist who did work with me. But before that happened, I began tracking everything. I couldn't figure out how my pain levels, why they would be so intense sometimes and debilitating, and at other moments, it wasn't quite as severe. It was still impactful. And it was so frustrating to me. And the answer I came up with was using a tracker, or tracking symptoms and activities. I'm sure you have heard of this before, but if not, this is as simple as a piece of paper with rows and columns with dates across the top, and on the left side going down is the listing of the items you want to track or record. And I felt like there was patterns. There was something I was missing, and knowing that eventually I would figure out what's going on with my pain, and I would figure out how to help my muscles. But until then, I needed to have a good grip on what exactly was all the issues I was dealing with, because it felt like everything was going wrong. And I couldn't get a specific handle on, well, where is my muscles hurting the most, or what time of day was the hardest for me. So I'm going to share my personal experience of using a tracker to encourage you. I know that many, many women who are in neurodiverse relationships eventually have chronic illnesses, autoimmune, chronic pain. Now, many of them have gone through recovery and have found solutions, but for many of us, it is still a work in progress. But also this can be applied towards your family members as well. But let's just focus on you right now. So tracking. What things did I track and that you might consider tracking? And I go towards, what is the pain point in a person's life? Now for me, it was, I had so much chronic pain. And I began tracking everything I thought that could possibly impact either positively or negatively my chronic pain. I recorded how many hours I slept, when I went to bed, when I woke up. I recorded my mood, how I was feeling, my energy level, also my pain level. And this ends up being a very pivotal piece of information down the road. I recorded each and every vitamin I was taking and then any medication I also had as well. Also, how many steps I had in a day, if I exercised, which physical therapy exercises that I did. At first, it seemed a bunch of messy data, a bunch of information that I was recording, and I doubted myself, to be honest, in the beginning of finding answers or direction. It was around month 3 that I took a moment and began looking backwards, and I began seeing trends which I would have seen after the first month. But I was so focused on doing the task of tracking that I didn't really take time to reflect on what I was tracking. And I began noticing some trends. In fact, one of the trends I noticed was how my pain level was impacted, not always, but often, by my mood. And that sometimes my highest level of pain days also coincided with days that I had difficult family interactions. Also, I began noticing certain physical therapy exercises that I did decreased that pain level for me. And as I spent time looking over the information and looking at the correlations, I saw there were answers in midst of all that I was recording and tracking down. The trends that I saw began giving me insight into what was helpful for me, but also what was hurtful for me. I saw certain medications when I was trying that route. I was able to track my pain level and energy level, and whenever a doctor suggested this would be the miracle that could help me with my pain, and I would track, and within 2.5, 3 weeks, I had my answer. And unfortunately, the answer was always, no, this is not working. Also, I found supplements that did help. Magnesium was one that was incredibly helpful for me. And as I was looking over my tracking, I could see when the days I was taking magnesium, I did better than the other days I did not take magnesium. So I want you to consider, what are some things that you could track in your life? Maybe you don't deal with chronic pain, but perhaps you deal with issues with your digestion. Maybe it's with your energy level. There's so many different areas this can really apply. Thinking through whatever your concern that you have, that you're trying to focus on for your health, what are all the possible factors that could impact it? Just even the smallest thing can make a big difference. Like I mentioned, hours, not just the hours that I slept, but when I went to bed and when I woke up. And there I also noticed going to bed at late at night was having an impact on my pain levels. So let's take a scenario and let's walk through it together that might apply to you. Let's say you have a health issue regarding something that impacts your energy. Maybe it's your adrenals, maybe it is your blood sugar. There's something that's impacting your energy level and you're trying to figure out what that was. Why is this tricky for you? In that scenario, I would suggest, besides, I already mentioned the sleep, when you go to bed and when you wake up and how long you sleep, keeping track of the vitamins that you are taking and the dosage levels, any medication, but also recording when you eat and what you eat can be incredibly helpful. I remember during one 6-month stint of tracking that when I ate sugar, my pain levels went up. There was a correlation. And at first I didn't believe it. And then I looked at my information, the data. I'm like, oh my goodness, I can see that the days that I'm eating, that I ate sugar and the days that I had my pain levels, that they were higher, they correlate. So tracking food is incredibly helpful. Now, you may find out, you know what, some things, Christina, I can do in a piece of paper, but others I prefer using an app. And maybe you want to use an app for all of it. That is completely fine. The point is that you are tracking and you're looking for trends and you're being just observant, being curious about yourself and about your health. Like, I wonder why today was a good day energy-wise, or why am I so sluggish today? Why is that happening? And I guarantee you, as you spend time observing and watching for those trends in your life and your health, you will begin to see them. And I feel pretty certain that you already are a master at doing this with your family members. You've already picked up on if this child eats certain types of foods, they have these type of reactions. Or you notice when there are very full days on your husband's schedule, when he comes home, there's a trend of how he responds when he gets home after that long day. I have no doubt you already are noticing that in everyone else's life. Now I'm challenging you to begin turning it inward and begin looking inside of what are the things, the trends that are happening that you may not be aware of. Or maybe you are, but you didn't even know where to begin. And that's where tracking can give us a start. When we're tracking these small moments of our lives, it causes us to see things that normally we move too fast to notice. That's one thing I really do appreciate about tracking, is that it causes me to slow down and to truly acknowledge what I am or am not doing. And also, if you have certain health goals, tracking is a great way to remind you of, am I working on these goals as I prefer to do, such as being active and exercising. Now, you may even notice if you throw into your tracking, taking restful breaks throughout the day. Do those days where you take intentional breaks of either walking, deep breathing, so many different options that are there. Those days, does your stress level decrease? The overall stress level? How does that day go for you? If you begin looking for these trends, that will be a humongous difference in your life to understand the impact, along with the turmoil that can come and be in a neurodiverse family of not knowing when that next blow up of frustration is going to happen. And tracking even that within your tracker can help understand, wow, these hard blow ups, meltdowns happen in someone in the family has. My reaction, I'm seeing there's a trend here. And that trend could be anything from going to bed late to having high levels of stress. But just being aware of that trend is very empowering, because then you can begin taking the right actions to help yourself through that day. So how would you go about and get started? Well, again, a notebook. You don't need anything fancy here. Yes, there's lots of different trackers that you can buy to record, but just starting simple. If you can check just 5 things, just check 5, and keep that notebook someplace where you're walking by it during the day. You can make little marks. Now for me, tracking my pain level was writing down what was my highest pain for that day, whatever number that would be. For you, you might want to track what's my pain level in the morning versus the afternoon and evening. Maybe you're looking for times a day. There is no right or wrong way to do this. You can get extremely detailed in the minutia. But when you begin looking for it, just writing it down. If you're not sure what to track, I would just start with 1 week and record 5 different items that you know are very important for your health goals. And then assess, do these 5 really serve me? Am I recording just to record, just for data, but it's not helpful at all? And I think having at least a month of tracking is incredibly helpful to determine how you should move forward. Now, my current level of tracking is much different. I tracked for years using paper, so many different items, looking for those trends, finding direction, and making small tweaks here and there in my lifestyle because of that. Now my tracking is much different. I use a chronometer for my food, and if you do the paid version, you can record the time along with when you ate, along with what you ate, which is great if you have concerns of food impacting you. I have different apps that do record how many hours that I sleep. Now, when it comes to energy level and my pain level, that is something that I would still do that on paper, because I haven't found really an app that I like. The only problem we have when we use all these different apps is finding trends are much harder. To find the commonality between all these different data points, it sounds very, very high level here, but really looking for the commonality between them is difficult when you're using all these different apps to track. So my suggestion would be is still have a basic paper tracker to have overall trends, So I would track, maybe if it's for food, I'm still using Chronometer for recording what I ate and when I ate. But I would maybe write down the total calories that I ate for that meal. Or it may be I have a key or a legend on my paper and I keep track. Did I have a high protein meal? Did I have a high carb meal? A little note of something regarding the meals I might make on that piece of paper, knowing that I can go back and look at my app for all the details of what exactly that I ate. But again, the point of the tracker is just a high level overview of your life and looking for trends. One trend I did notice is that when it comes to my cycle, certain parts of my cycle, my pain level will naturally be higher than other parts of my cycle. The reason that is important is I began thinking I am regressing in the progress I'm making with my chronic pain. But when I saw that my chronic pain always seemed to rise during certain parts of my cycle, then I took those flare-ups differently. I saw them as a flare-up because of my cycle versus I'm not making progress and I'm regressing, if that makes any sense. So there is so much you can really bring together here. And I would pick the highest level ones. I do think a woman's cycle is very important in trying to understand all the other complexities with her health. But at the basic level, look at your sleep, look at your energy level, your mood level. Those are some good starting points for tracking. I hope this gives you some ideas of how you can begin taking a deep dive into yourself and looking for trends that you're not quite aware of, but once you begin, it becomes fun because you begin to understand yourself in a deeper level and you begin advocating for yourself, because when you can show a provider, a doctor, I've been tracking this and I've seen this trend, they can't argue with that. They know you're watching your health. You are looking into your lifestyle to see the trends. And that can be very helpful as you're moving forward, taking care of yourself. I appreciate you being here. And if there is something unique you think that should be tracked, send me a message, a DM, either on Instagram or Facebook, and I'd love to hear from you. Hey, thank you for joining me today. I pray this episode gave you encouragement to take one small step. Would you be willing to help other women like you find this show? If so, leave a quick review on Apple Podcasts. If you like more information on living in a neurodiverse relationship, check the show notes on how we can connect.